I recently finished reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I know the camera is not focusing on it right now, but you know, um, anyway, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. And I really, really like this book. I've already ordered the second book in the series, The Stormlight Archive, and I think there are 10 books that are going to be published, and this is the book one. And the book one is already 1100 pages long. So it's a daunting task, but when you start reading the story and when you get engaged, when you get hooked, there's no stopping once you get hooked. I really liked it, and it taught me a lot of things. It this book this book has taught me to think about the world a bit differently. It answered some of the questions that were already lingering in my mind, even before I started reading the book. Mm, I'm actually, and for that, I'm actually thankful to the author, to the editor, and the entire publishing team for crafting this book, because it's a wonderful story. And the overall experience, because there are so many sketches and illustrations in this book, that it's really entertaining. But it's not just entertaining, it's much more than that. And I think I found this book at the right time, and I'm really grateful to the author and the entire publishing team for that. Let's talk about what it taught me first. We'll get into the book, we'll get into what the book is about, but before that, let me talk about what this book taught me. It taught me that it's okay, that it's normal to question your life choices long after you have made them. That it's normal to feel helpless and hopeless when things don't go your way. That reality can be really grim, that it can be really, really, really dark. And despite the easy way out beckoning you all the time, it's tempting, the easy way out is. Despite that, doing the right thing, that can offer you a far better meaning, a far better purpose to your life. It's not easy to let go of your ways, of your mindset, of your identity, because you have held on to all of that for so long time. So it's not easy. It's not easy to start questioning the premise basis which you have in the past always decided what is right, what is wrong. It's not easy to do that, and it's quite a struggle, and this book depicts that struggle through its characters, through its central characters really well. The central characters, uh, as far as this book is concerned, I think the central characters are Kaladin and Dalinar. There are other characters as well. There is Shalin and there is Adolin and there is Jasna, but Jasna's point of view is not shown, at least in this book. But I can sort of realize that she is a central figure. I think there are 10 main characters uh, in this series. The antagonist, so to say, is Zeth, and he's the unlikely antagonist, and he's also the reluctant antagonist. He hates himself basically, but he has to do what he has to do, and therefore he is an antagonist. So it's not easy, as I was saying, it's not easy to start questioning the premise of what you consider to be right and wrong. And that struggle is depicted through the characters, especially through Kaladin, Shalin, and Dalinar, these three characters, even Adolin to some extent. As far as Shalin is concerned, let's talk about her. Her character teaches me that it's not easy to leave your comfort zone. And once you leave your comfort zone, it's not a fairy tale. You have to learn the ways of the world. You have to learn to negotiate. Even Kaladin teaches you that. Even Dalinar to some extent teaches you that. So you have to learn to make sacrifices. You have to learn to make compromises, and you have to come to terms with making suboptimal choices again and again and again and again. And all of these characters that I mentioned, they do that constantly, one after the other, just keeps doing that because they have to get somewhere, because they have to find the right answer to things, to the questions that haunt them. You know, what am I supposed to do? What is the meaning of life? Blah, blah, blah. Should I do what I'm passionate about? Should I chase what I'm passionate about? Or should I fulfill my duty and my responsibility? Should I let go of all the inhibitions? Should I consider the possibility that I may be wrong and others may be right? Should I start questioning my long held beliefs and long held code of conducts? You know, was my upbringing wrong? All those questions these characters keep asking themselves all the time. Even after they start doing the right things, they keep asking themselves, they keep doubting. And that's quite natural. And that's what this book taught me, that it's okay, that it's normal, that this is what happens. You keep questioning yourself despite everything. And despite the fact that you keep questioning and you keep doubting, you still go on, you still move ahead, and you still keep going through. If you're going through hell, keep going. That's what basically this book is about, I feel, at least. And another thing that this book tells me is that this book has taught me is that you have to learn to let go, because it explicitly tells you to learn to let go through a character, obviously. When things don't go your way, when you lose things, when you lose people, when even at times when you lose yourself, you have to learn to let go. It's so strange that a fictional tale, right? Not a philosophy book. It's not a philosophy book, but in a way it is. A fictional tale, it teaches you so many things without ever promising to teach you anything, without sounding like a preach, without being on the nose. It teaches you so much. I like when a story does that. I like when I root for a character, not just because I want that character to succeed, but because I want the protagonist to become a better person, to learn something, to become stronger. I like that journey. I like that arc. Yes, you will succeed. Yes, you will defeat the evil forces, and yes, you will commit some heroic act all the time, or maybe at least in the end. And yes, you will stick to your principles. But despite being a man of principle, despite being a strong person of character, you're still someone who holds prejudices. You're still someone who's flawed in some ways, and you're still someone who needs to learn. When you have that kind of character, that okay, this is a character that shows promise, but it also has to deal with his own flaws, that grips you. It takes you, okay, yeah, I root for this guy or girl, in the case of Shalyn, because Shalyn is a female. So you start rooting for them, and you want them to succeed, you want them to learn. Success means two things at the same time for you. Yes, you want good things to happen to them, but you also want them to learn good things, basically. And this is crucial, getting over or going through prejudices, because it's part of your learning curve. Prejudices are part of your learning curve. We should not cancel people, or we should not basically we should not blame people for having prejudices. It's part of their learning curve. You have to let people work through their mistakes, work through their notions, their misconceptions, their prejudices. The learning curve is filled with prejudices, right? Because it's integral. you if you want to become a better person from A to B, let's say 5 years ago you held a bunch of prejudices about few things, and after 5 years you're here, and if you still hold those prejudices, okay, then maybe you can tell that person, yeah, you still have a long way to go, but you have to go there. You should keep that potential alive, and one way of keeping that potential alive in a reasonable person is to allow them to chance to learn through their mistakes. Oh, and Jasna does that. The character Jasna, she does that really well. She allows Shalan to come at Shalan to um, come at her own conclusions, to arrive at her own conclusions. And Shalan is quite clever, you know. She does that. She learns quickly. She's a fast learner. So they're necessary. Prejudice is necessary. That's what makes the character compelling. And you can't just tell people that, okay, this is right and this is wrong, and if you don't follow these rules, then everything will go berserk and you won't, everything will fall apart. No, you have to let them learn through their own mistakes, and that is something I think even Dalinar has to learn. So I like how it is debated that, okay, Dalinar is a character that operates with a code of conduct, and he expects this same um, behavior, demeanor, or that kind of conduct from his sons as well as his forces. And everybody else tells him that, you're just, uh, you sit on a high horse, and basically you look down upon others because they don't follow some codes. You think highly of yourself for doing that. And then he starts questioning himself, is that so? Am I doing that? And I like that kind of friction in a person, and that is essential. You have to work through it even when you are right. You have to go through those all those questions and self-doubts. You have to solve them, you have to resolve them, you have to reconcile with them, because there's always a possibility that you may not be right. There's always a possibility that somebody else, who usually you take for a fool, he or she may be right at a given point. Nobody is wise all the time. Nobody is a fool all the time. And we need to remember that. And this book, through its characters, tells you exactly that. At least that was my takeaway. Uh, let's talk about the ending now. We often come across stories that promise a lot, but the climax turns out to be quite disappointing. Not quite, but somewhat disappointing, at least, or wanting. It's not just because the otherwise super strong villain caves in at the last moment, he gives in too easily, and the otherwise meek and weak hero, suddenly he gains superpower or something, super resolve, and at the last moment he does something heroic and becomes too strong. Impossible. That it's not just because of that. That is a factor, but it's not just because of that. It's also because the real climax often happens much earlier, right? And it has a disconnect with this defeat of the villain moment. Right before defeating the villain, the hero comes to the right conclusion, right? He basically he announces, "Oh, I was stupid. I was wrong. I was in the dark, but now I know. Now I've seen the light. This is what was lacking in me. I should have realized this long ago." And that moment is depicted so strongly, and it is so highly satisfactory in and itself, that after that moment has passed, if you fail to connect it with the defeat of the villain in time, and you let that moment pass, and now now you expect the hero to go and defeat the villain, then it basically becomes like a formality, and it becomes an easy peasy formality. So it's a delicate maneuver to connect the realization of the protagonist that, whatever takeaway he has, whatever whatever the hero has to learn through his journey, to connect that with the defeat of the villain. It is a delicate maneuver, and not many are able to do that effectively. And when they fail to do that, when stories, otherwise good stories, fail to arrive at a good climax or depict a good climax, you start questioning, was the villain at all necessary? Because, what was the point of the villain? If What was the point of having a strong villain if he was to be defeated so easily? That's the kind of question that you start having in your mind. As far as the Way of Kings is concerned, um, the villain is actually introduced. Okay, I should not spoil it. It's the first book, and it's a book that does world building a lot. It tells us where people are, how they look, and what their culture is, and what their traditions are, what their beliefs are. And it is definitely highly, highly inspired from, um, I think, some Christian ethics, as well as maybe from Greek mythology as well. Maybe I'll have to check. But for instance, the heralds, they're definitely inspired from, I think, I should not say definitely, but they're likely inspired from apostles. And the one herald that the others abandon, I think, is inspired from inspired by Saint Paul the apostle, because he's abandoned by others and he likes to go and seek out the tough battles and win. So there is definitely that. And then there's the knights radiant. The knights radiant must stand again. I'm not spoiling anything because it is written on the blurb. So it is likely inspired from the Crusaders, maybe, just maybe. I'm not an expert in Christian mythology or Christian history. I'm not at all an expert in that. I'm not a Christian. I'm a Hindu. Maybe you can tell. And so yeah, that's all I have to say about Way of Kings for now. I think I have refrained from revealing anything about the even. I have not even introduced the plot, I think, and that's the way I like to give reviews, because I often uh, avoid reading or watching any reviews, because sometimes it's not the exact culmination of events or exact sequence of events that spoils the story. That also spoils the story, but it's not the only thing that I consider as spoiler. There are some other things, there are some other factors. Even the basic premise, if you just reveal it, then it sort of becomes, now you ruined the fun. So I tried to reveal as little as possible about the book. The book is worth a read, definitely. It's worth a reread actually, because I'm sure that I've missed a lot. I think the debates between Shalin and Jasna, also the debates between Dalinar and Adolin, and also the debates between Kaladin and his father. I think they are worth reading again and pondering over, I think. Yeah. So whenever I manage to persuade myself to start reading this big hunk of a book again, I think I will give them some serious consideration. For now, I've just read this for the first time and I'm mighty impressed. I've already ordered the second book. I don't know if I told you in the beginning of the video or not, but I'm looking forward to read that book. Yeah, if you like this video, you know what to do. All those usual formalities. Bye bye.